there, this is Datila, and welcome to the Wrestling Time Post Show. It is Monday, May 13, 2024, and tonight I'll be talking about Monday Night Raw, but I'm not alone. Joining me for this is fellow WrestleManiac podcaster, Josh, and his Raw was so nice, he just had to review it twice. How are you doing tonight, Josh?
Good. That's right. Datila and Rangers are wrestling fans. Definitely Raw was so nice I had to do it twice. And especially when I'm with the toast of the West Coast, I've got to review. Especially when you're asked, you answer the call, right? So definitely tonight, Monday Night Raw, part 2.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't check out Josh's review, go check out his review on A Plus Hero Report. He's live every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday.
Yep.
All right, so let's kick things off talking about this King and Queen of the Ring quarterfinal matches. Let's start off with the first one. The quarterfinal women's match was Io Sky versus Shayna Baszler. I thought this was a pretty decent match, much better than I expected. I was really surprised by the outcome. Io Sky got the victory here. I really thought this match was Shayna Baszler's. Well, what are your thoughts on this match?
I'm not surprised only because you got to rebuild Io again. It was interesting. I definitely thought it was interesting that they had a little altercation in the parking lot earlier in the day. So I thought that was really nice that we kind of had it set up. Yeah, these two definitely have good chemistry. Again, it's a little weird that they're both technically heels essentially, but Io winning was not a surprise. Again, I'm hoping they are leading up to something. Now, again, do I think she's going to hit the finals? No, I don't necessarily think so. I think she's just going to be fed to, we'll talk about who she may be fed to later on. I don't want to spoil that necessarily, but no surprise with Io because, again, you got to rebuild her after losing the title at WrestleMania somehow.
Michael says, good match. I thought Shayna would win it, right? I thought Shayna would win it too, but no. Oh, you're right. They did get into a little spat in the parking lot. These parking lots are not safe.
No, you would think they'd all come at different times or something. At least somebody go through different. I mean, look, if you've been to arena, you know damn well not everybody's going to come through one entrance. There's only 100 entrances to get in there, especially during the day. But I like it. I mean, I like that they did have a setup of, there is competition now versus them all kind of working together. So don't mind it too much.
So I really like how at the end when Jackie Redmond is in the ring, Io Sky responds to her questions in Japanese, and then she does the belt gesture. So I really thought that was a nice aspect.
I love it. Look, I mean, I'm kind of spoiled, as I mentioned in my review earlier, with Shinsuke having subtitles, right? But you know what? The IWC is not going to fail. We're going to find out exactly what she said in Japanese. So no complaint here. Always love it.
So the second match we got was a men's match, and it was Kofi Kingston versus Gunther. Now, this was Kofi's, how can you say, a payback match. Like, he wanted to stick it to Gunther because Gunther injured Xavier Woods, and because of that injury, Xavier Woods was not able to defend his King of the Ring crown in this tournament. So he really wanted to win this for Xavier Woods. I thought this was an incredible match, probably one of my favorite match of the night. But I just felt for Kofi, like he was not able to beat Gunther here.
Oh, the passion of Kofi. I mean, yeah, and I've got to say this may be one of the, I don't want to say underrated feuds, but this is something that definitely has got a little bit more TV time. And look, Walter is, I say Walter, look at me going old school. Gunther, I should say, I want to call him Walter every time I see him. Gunther, hasn't really had a bad match. And look, Kofi Kingston is still a former WWE champion. And yeah, this match was great. Did I think Kofi had any chance of winning? No, not at all. But, they've had a feud with him for a while. So definitely what I'm loving, and I don't know why they're setting it up this way, but there's a reason. Why Gunther is having this deadly Boston Crab to win his matches now. There's something to it. I'm curious to see as to why, because really, you don't see that too often. It's usually been the Powerbomb 1, 2, 3. So yeah, great match, especially I would dare say match of the night.
I thought it would be a good match. It should have been a squash. I disagree. I'm glad it wasn't a squash.
I think Kofi Kingston already suffered that at one guy named Brock, some guy named Brock or something. I don't think we need that again. Poor Kofi.
Speaking of not being able to defend her crown, I feel bad for Zelina not being able to defend hers in the tournament. I do too. I mean, I don't think realistically, I don't think she was going to defeat Shayna Baszler.
This has been a snake bit tournament from the get-go, though. I mean, Asuka's out, Drew McIntyre's out, Bobby Lashley is out. I mean, what the heck is going on with this tournament?
They need a neck cleanse. That's what they need. A good old-fashioned neck cleanse.
Agreed.
All right. Don't remind us about Zelina as Queen of the Ring. It was awful. You know, they could have done so much more with Zelina as Queen of the Ring, but they didn't capitalize.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right. So then the next one we get is Zoey Stark versus Lyra Valkyria. This one I wasn't really surprised about the outcome. Lyra Valkyria, no surprise that she beat Zoey Stark here. She's just got caught up from NXT. I didn't think that there was any reason she was gonna lose this match. I thought she had a great showing, great performance. And then at the end, she cuts quick little promo. She speaks Gaelic, I think.
Gaelic, yeah.
Gaelic.
I don't understand it either, but
yeah, I needed subtitles. But basically, she says she only travels as, I think she said, crows fly straight to the top. So, you know, for those who are not familiar with Lyra Valkyria, this is a great performance, great showcase for her.
Yep.
I'm a little bit, familiar with Lyra Valkyria, as you know. Like, I don't really watch NXT, so.
It was a good showing. And Zoey Stark, I mean, I say it. I mean, again, I hate that her push kind of stopped, but I love the team with Shayna. And, this was a great option because Zoey Stark in her own right has talent and she looks damn good putting somebody over. I loved especially the ending when she was going to go for the Z360 and then Lyra just reversed it. That to me was a great sequence, an NXT style sequence, and it made sense for her to lose. So even though Zoey Stark lost, she really kind of had a really good showing here. I think even better than Baszler in losing. So definitely for sure. And hey, look, Netflix, Raw's coming to Netflix, so maybe we'll get the damn subtitles finally, no matter what it's going to be, and we'll actually see what it's said in Gaelic and everything. Maybe that's what they're doing it for, testing the Netflix type of technology, right?
Maybe they are. All right, so the main event and the last match of the night was the quarterfinals men's matches, Jey Uso versus Ilja Dragunov. Now, this match was interesting because whoever won this match would go on to face Gunther in the semifinals. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally thought that Ilja Dragunov was going to win this match because I was like, why not do Ilja Dragunov versus Gunther? You know? I mean, their first match. Holy shit, that was incredible.
And I think it's one of those that I theorized that maybe this is what makes the Mad Dragon snap because again, he's been kind of a heel in NXT, kind of been a little cocky, and so again, he was riding high on basically being Ilja Dragunov, and my postulation is that he's going to help Gunther win, attack Jey Uso, and look, Vinci's got to be replaced by somebody, so why not the Mad Dragon? The enemy of the enemy is my friend, so maybe he just wants to make enemy with Gunther. Why not?
This is disappointed Dragunov is not moving on. I was looking forward to him versus Gunther final. So what is Jay's winning? Oh yeah, definitely Jay's not winning next week. That's for sure. No. But like, did you notice Jay's earlobe during this match? He was bleeding.
Well, I mean, you're fighting Gunther, you're fighting a freaking bear out there, so yeah, you're going to get hurt. So I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, again, it's going to be sacrifice. I don't know if anybody watched the post show on Twitter or what Gunther did at the end. Did you see that by chance?
When he came out and confronted Jey?
Well, no. Apparently, after the show went over, he actually had him in the middle of the ring, if I can back up here, and actually he was about to have Gunther do this thing with him, the eat thing, and then Gunther turned and kicked him in the gut. It was great. So if you got a chance, go check it out after the fact. It was great. Seeing Gunther almost do it and then kick it was great. I literally just saw it before we went on air.
But yeah, I was really surprised by this outcome. I don't think anybody was expecting Jey Uso to go over. My question is, like, where does Dragunov go from here? I mean, they obviously, and we'll get into it as we review the show, they obviously teased, him and Gunther. So clearly their feud is not over. But how do we get there? That's the question.
I don't think we're going to get it early. I mean, again, I hate to say it, but I mean, I think they're going to build to Gunther and Ilja a lot longer, and they're not going to give us that at first. Triple H is one to build stories, so this may be, I dare say, the prologue to their feud that's coming eventually.
He's not a Yee fan. No, he's not. I do agree. This is definitely an introduction to their eventual feud.
Yep.
All right. So let's start from the beginning now. tonight's Raw kicked off with Drew McIntyre out there. Once again, he was like talking about CM Punk. Like his obsession with Punk is not healthy.
This ex-CM Punk is what I call it. It's like an ex you can't get over. It just keeps on and keeps on.
Did you see what he posted on Twitter? Like it was him of Stan, like that music video by Eminem.
I'd seen part of it, but I didn't get to watch it all. But I heard it was greatness from what Indy had said.
Yeah. So he says that if you like CM Punk, you're stupid, and if you're a CM Punk fan, you're stupid. And he basically is like accusing Adam Pearce of being Punk's stooge right here.
Yep.
And I really like the fact, Drew's gonna hold a grudge with Punk until he's 100. Yeah, he is. I really like the fact that like Drew McIntyre was like, "Oh, Punk is not showing up in Greensboro. He only shows up to big cities."
Oh, there was two things that I about lost it in my mind. So one was when he said Punk looks like a drug addict without doing drugs, and secondly, somebody said on Twitter that CM Punk is to Drew McIntyre is to what Goldberg is to Bret Hart, and I'm like, oh, that's mean.
Yeah, I really like. And then so like when Damian Priest comes out, I really like the fact that Drew McIntyre was like, Priest walks around backstage with his blue like bloodline.
Yep.
That okay.
Cracking me up. Troll Drew McIntyre is gold.
So like, one of the things I really like about this is that Damian Priest tells Drew McIntyre that Drew blames everyone else for his failures except for himself. Which is true.
Yep. Can I say the quote he said in the mirror? Can I say that without getting us in trouble? Basically, look in the mirror and you can only blame the a-hole in the mirror for what happened to you. That was a great line.
Yeah, it was. And like I like the fact that like Drew McIntyre brings up the fact that Damian Priest has such an inspirational story, but just because he's got an inspirational story doesn't mean he deserves to be a world champion. He even has the audacity to call him paper champion.
People like you don't deserve to be world champion. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great though. It was a great exchange that I did not expect to be a great exchange, to be honest with you.
Bret Hart will never forgive Bill Goldberg either.
No, he will not.
Yeah, this was a really great exchange. I like it. And like, yeah, Damian Priest made a lot of great points with saying that, and he's correct when he said that he tried to cash in on Seth Rollins multiple times. Yep. And who stopped him every single time? Drew McIntyre prevented him from cashing in on Seth Rollins. If you would have just let him cash in on Seth Rollins, it would have been them at WrestleMania.
Well, and he also made a good point saying, you told me I'd be smart to cash in on you. You told me basically what to do. You gave me the secret formula of what to do. And this had more heat in the first 5 minutes than Priest and Jey Uso ever did for Backlash.
Yeah. Michael says Priest came off as a babyface. You're spitting facts about Mike. So yeah, he did. He honestly did.
He kind of, and hopefully I don't get heat for this, but it's almost like they're booking Priest like Diesel back in the day. And the Diesel was technically a heel, technically a babyface, but he kind of was in the middle, could kind of be a jerk if he wanted to, but he's cool enough to, really go against even the heels as well. So I did like this exchange. I thought it made me look forward to a match eventually down the road whenever they have that.
And speaking of that, Damian Priest says that he will give McIntyre a shot at the title. He doesn't say when, but he will give it to him. I still think Priest, unfortunately, is going to drop that title at Clash at Castle.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Exactly. So we get the first Judgment Day segment of the night, and basically, Carlito tries to join Judgment Day, and Damian Priest is like, no, that's not going to happen. And I really like the fact how he's like, even the most stubborn minds can be changed, and maybe someday they can all be amigos.
Right. What's funny? I really think this is interesting that I mentioned before that Dom has been the one that's been recruiting. He has been like, basically the guy trying to sell, like, man, look, we can have him join Judgment Day, and Andrade can join Judgment Day, and this guy can join Judgment Day. I'm really curious. Again, he's injured. I'm really curious, whenever Damian Priest turns babyface, are we going to have Dom as the leader? Because he's the only one trying to add to the ranks every single time. Nobody else has brought anybody else to the table.
I honestly,
JD maybe is different, but that's different though.
we'll talk about this, but I honestly don't think Judgment Day. They might have one last hoorah when we'll get into it as we get to that segment, but I don't see Judgment Day lasting once Priest drops that belt.
I mean, agreed. I just wonder if there's a reason though that they're always having Dom being the one bringing people in. That's what I think is interesting.
Okay, I could see it. I could see why you say that. Okay, so we get an Alpha Academy segment, and basically Chad Gable is berating Maxine for losing her opportunity as the Queen of the Ring, basically saying she embarrassed Alpha Academy, calls it pathetic, and says she's learned nothing. Now, he talks about how he got matches for Akira Tozawa and Otis. He wants Tozawa to go head-to-head with Bronson Reed, and he wants Otis to basically soften up Sami Zayn for it, and basically lets them know that they better not blow it.
Yep. I mean, this is perfect. This is what Chad Gable needs to do. He needs to basically straighten them up. And, it really plays later on into their matches. And he says, basically, I don't want to see this silliness. I don't want to see you guys. I want you to be serious. So I'm really liking this new Gable character.
Me too. I feel like I kind of feel like it's only a matter of time before Alpha Academy crumbles down. And I'll get into it as we talk about their matches, because that plays into it. Now, poor Ivy Nile, she tries to ask Maxine why she didn't go to her for, to train. And basically, Chad Gable tells her not to waste his time with Taylor Not So Swift.
Poor Chad Gable. Such a dad joke. But hey, I mean, it worked well enough. I mean, I like that Ivy Nile is trying to work with her. But again, I'm really curious about what this storyline is going to go with Ivy Nile and Maxine, though.
I think, okay. And again, I'll talk about more about this as we get through the matches. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about their matches while we're on the subject.
Okay, sure.
So we had Bronson Reed versus Akira Tozawa. What is there to talk about? This match was pretty much an enhancement match, but you could tell that this was the start of Chad Gable not being happy with Alpha Academy.
I don't know if I'd call it an enhancement match, and only here's the reason why. Because you really had Tozawa come out with fire at first, knocking Bronson Reed down, knocking him down. And I mentioned this before, that in both matches, the tearing of the shirt and them going back to what they're used to, the crowd-pleasing aspect of their gimmicks, is what ultimately cost them the match. So I wouldn't call it an enhancement, only because, yes, Bronson Reed did win decisively. But at first, it really wasn't until Akira Tozawa, at least we'll talk about this match, did the ripping of the shirt type of thing, then it cost him the match. And that played later on into Otis's match we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah, so we had Sami Zayn versus Otis, and he wanted to do the caterpillar, and Chad Gable was just yelling at him, you better not do the caterpillar. You can argue and say that pretty much cost Otis this match.
Exactly. And Chad Gable technically was right. Y'all go out there and play, and it's going to cost you. And both of them, as soon as it's funny because I was watching the match with Otis, and I thought, as soon as he does his little crazy thing, I wonder if they're going to make him lose. And literally, as soon as he did it, 1, 2, 3, we're done. So it played into the match. I did jinx him.
So Sami Zayn wins this match, but at the end, Chad Gable was just berating poor Otis over here. He's just insulting him verbally. And Sami Zayn, he goes in and he saves Otis, and yet Otis still helps Chad Gable up. And you could see Chad Gable was just not happy with Otis. He slaps poor Otis, and then the crowd's chanting for Otis.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like one or two things are going to happen here. Either A, Chad Gable's going to dump Alpha Academy, or Alpha Academy is going to leave Chad Gable. I personally feel that because Alpha Academy as a whole aren't heels, it makes more sense for Chad Gable to dump them than for them to walk out on Chad Gable. Now, if the entire team were heels and this was going on, I think it would work more if they walk out on Chad Gable.
Right.
But that's just me. I could see them just walking out, but personally, I feel like Chad Gable should just dump them.
Oh, my hope is that, Chad Gable brings the creeds and they beat the heck out of both of them. And then that's when they're like, I'm tired of losers, because I'll bring it up in a minute when we talk about a cameo from a certain superstar, but I really think that we're starting the beginnings of the Alpha Academy being over. But I think we're getting hints with Triple H always having these little threads of who's going to be next with Gable's stable. So I definitely agree that Gable's going to dump him, but I hope it's going to be a little bit different than just him walking out on him.
I think Alpha Academy are going to be done by Gable. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to align himself with the Creed brothers. I think the Creed brothers fit more with Chad Gable's style.
Oh, well, and just being congratulated for all their success, and they've been winning. I mean, he's watching. He watches that kind of stuff, so it makes sense. The new team angle
win tonight, but they didn't lose either because they weren't the ones that ate the pin.
Exactly.
But not only that, and speaking of Ivy Nile, I feel like she might end up in a tag team with Maxine.
I kind of think the opposite. I think this is all a threat of trying to get her to befriend her, and then she's with the Creed brothers, so is it such a bad idea to have Ivy Nile turn heel because her face character is nothing? And so to me, I would love it to be where this was all the plan all along, her basically luring Maxine, trying to train her, and just turn on her whenever the Creeds join. Because, you know, now do I want to see a Maxine Ivy Nile match? No, not at all. But it would make sense if she turned heel because look how badass she looks. She's buff, she's set up, and you know, to me, that would be a Maxine challenge. Of can she beat this? I don't want to say China-esque figure, but this monster of a woman basically. So I don't know. I kind of think that she may turn heel and just be playing Maxine for a fool.
Okay, I can see why you think that because basically I would be taking Maxine's spot in Alpha Academy, in the new Alpha Academy, Alpha Academy 2.0.
Let's just call him Team Gable because it's like Team Angle. It's just Team Gable.
Team Gable. Okay. All right. So you get Kofi Kingston being interviewed before the start of his match. And he's basically talking about how this tournament means a lot because, again, Xavier Woods was not able to be a part of this tournament. And he's basically talking about there's no room for failure, self-doubt, or even fear in the ring. And then Xavier Woods just says that because of what Gunther did to him, he can go out there and defend the honor of the king of the ring. So this was a good interview with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods.
It's like Kofi Kingston saying he's going to beat Brock Lesnar. And like, that's nice. Good job, Kofi. You got this, buddy. So, I mean, a good Kofi interview for sure. But I'm curious with Xavier Woods being in the background if we're not going to get something soon between them two. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. We get an awesome shoot segment, and we find out there's going to be a fatal four-way number one contenders match tonight to determine the number one contenders for their tag titles. And then Kiana James basically gets introduced to Awesome Truth, and she says she's going to prove why she is the 1%.
I could have expected a better debut from her, but you know, hey, look. You can't fit everybody in the NXT on there. Not every NXT person can get a win or a big debut, right? So decent enough. I mean, our Truth was his typical comedy gold self, right? And saying that, you know, he thought adjudication didn't sound like a PG thing. Kind of fell flat for an R Truth joke. But hey, you know, you got to get him on there somehow.
Now, we've got to talk about this, but I really like the fact that before the start of Kofi versus Gunther, which we're not going to talk about because we already did, Lillian Garcia came back. And she introduced Kofi Kingston. She introduced the match, and Samantha Irving introduced Lillian. And Lillian said that Samantha's doing amazing. She's doing an incredible job, and she's so proud of her and gives her a hug. God, I got flashbacks to my childhood with hearing Lillian Garcia announce this match.
It's funny, my wife, as I say, she only started watching in 22, and she's like, who is that? I'm like, oh, that's probably one of the best ring announcers from the 2000s and the 1990s. And so she's like, wow, she's really good. I said, oh, yeah, she was there for years. So definitely a fun little, I dare say, legend, you know, a cameo. So I really didn't expect it. It was kind of random. I was like, oh, Lillian Garcia's on TV. I forgot about it. Not forgot about her, but, you know, it's been so long since she's been around, right? So it was nice to see her.
Yeah, I was really surprised because I was not expecting to see Lillian Garcia. Like, that was not on my list for Monday Night Raw. Yeah, on bingo card. I will say she still looks the same.
Oh, amazing. And she's got a podcast apparently too. So I need to go now. It reminded me, I'm like, oh, she's got a podcast I need to listen to. So good reminder for everybody else.
Yeah. All right. So we get a Lyra Akira interview. And she's basically just talking about that a great way to kick off her tenure on Raw was Cena to go out there and help Becky last week.
Right.
And the whole point of this is that she says she's always going to have Becky's backup. She's always going to be Becky's backup. And Liv Morgan interrupts her and asks her if Becky's always been a bitch. But because you have to remember, prior to Liv Morgan interrupting, Becky thanked her and said it was happy to have her on Raw, and then she walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the fact that Becky was standing behind Liv, and then, like, she totally just like decked her and told her that she's not afraid of a face-to-face fight and calls her a bitch.
So begins the march to Netflix, bitch, 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 bitch. I mean, again, I like this segment. Again, I really, because, you know, it's real. If people really get in a fight, now, granted, there's probably more choice words they can use on Netflix, but I mean, that's when you're going to fight somebody. You're even CM Punk and Drew McIntyre has been calling each other bitch. So I think they're really starting to kind of introduce that sort of non-PG thing. But if you think about it, PG's been around since, what, 2008? So it's almost been 20 years. Almost. So, I mean, all those kids in 08 that, you know, were watching, they're grown adults now. So I do like this feud with Becky and Liv. I think Liv's going to make a chance. No. But it's good to get her over. I'd be happy if she won, but we'll see.
We definitely will see, because the last time Becky and Liv faced each other, Liv was a face and Becky was the heel, and they stopped Liv's push so many times. I just didn't believe that Liv would be Becky.
No.
You know, so we have to wait and see how this goes.
Yep, I agree.
So we get a Kofi Kingston segment, you know, she's like backstage. Kind of odd that Karrion Kross approaches him and kind of tells him there's always more time to turn things around because of that tough loss. So interesting.
Very. I kind of now call the Final Testament the last rites, because I mean, unless they do something dramatic, I mean, this group is dead on arrival. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do. I kind of wonder if they're telegraphing if that's going to be the next feud for Karrion Kross, which Karrion really doesn't do much. He really is more so the manager for AOP, and basically AOP has 3 managers. So I did like how Xavier was like, "What's that about?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." So be curious to see what happens. Hopefully they do bring, because I mean, my understanding is Karrion Kross in TNA was a totally different character, totally a lot more over seemingly. So I'm curious to see where they're going to go with him. Hopefully they do something good with him.
I wasn't watching TNA at that time, so I can't comment. But I know Scarlett was doing this gimmick of like she was a 10, and like she told Alicia to, you know, shut up, 5. A 10 is talking. Yeah. So
I can't disagree.
Like I said, I wasn't watching TNA at the time, so I can't comment on their TNA days. But if you're in the chat, you know, let us comment on Karrion Kross' TNA days. All right. So we get an Imperium interview, and like Kaiser just gets really offended over the fact that Kathy Kelly was just like talking to Gunther immediately after he won his match.
Yeah, the ring general has to take a shower or something. Leave the poor man alone. He just killed Kofi Kingston out there, you know. Leave him be.
I honestly feel like this is going to lead to a match with Sheamus, because Kaiser was bringing up the fact that, you know, he will expose and embarrass Sheamus in front of the whole wide world.
It was weird Sheamus wasn't there. I expected another turn. Oh, there's Sheamus. Oh, okay, fella. But, you know, I guess he's selling the beatdown from Gunther. So, yeah, I like this thing. And I like that he pretty much said, who cares about the past people? Gunther's beaten them all. So who cares if he has a past with anybody else? So I like this segment. Ludwig talking, I think he's getting better and better at interviews every time we hear him.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely do. He's getting better. All right. And so Adam Pearce makes an announcement. Again, fatal 4-way to determine the number 1 contenders for Awesome Truths tag titles. And then Braun Breaker approaches him, and he says he talks about how he would have drowned all of his opponents in the King of the Ring tournament.
Again, I get it, but it's Braun Breaker. Again, I mean, I did expect him to be in the King of the Ring, but I guess they don't want to sacrifice him, which is good. But Braun Breaker, like on SmackDown, what the hell is he going to do? Who's he going to feud with? I don't see him feuding with anybody right now. So he's kind of in La La Land right now.
I feel like what hurt Braun Breaker was the fact that he went to Raw. I feel like if he would have stayed on SmackDown, they could have totally put him in the King of the Ring tournament because then you could have done Gunther versus Braun Breaker in the finals.
I mean, look, poor Baron Corbin. As soon as he was on my TV, I was like, nope, don't care. Instantly. And it's so sad because he was such a better character in NXT, but as soon as I saw him on SmackDown, I'm like, nope. And I don't know if it was Braun Breaker and the whole bro thing, but I thought it was weird they drafted him to Raw because unless he's going to fight Gunther, who's he really going to face right now? So, I don't know. Bad move, I think, at this point. Maybe they'll change it. Maybe I'll be wrong, but only thing I can think is maybe he's going to go for the IC title later. Who knows?
Jey Uso cuts a promo talking about the King of the Ring, talks about how Drew McIntyre couldn't cut it, so they put him in the King of the Ring. He talked about how Finn Balor got a yeet down, how Ilja Dragunov, he welcomes him to Raw, but it's probably going to get a yeet down too. And that Gunther will get the next yeet down. And that he's going to become the King of the Ring. So, typical Jey Uso promo here.
Typical. That's exactly what it is. It's the same thing, I'm out your city. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm just not feeling Jey Uso no more. At this point, it's just, a merchandise shiller. I mean, again, I think he's got talent. Don't get me wrong, but I don't ever feel he's serious. That's the thing. It's like he's very goofy, very fun-loving. I get it, but like you're gonna get a yeet down. I don't know. I just want something different. I want a serious main event Jey Uso. I don't want the Hulk Hogan. Listen to me, brother. That's what I feel like.
So what you're saying is you're not feeling Usi.
No, not at all. Not feeling Usi at all. I mean, again, the crowd loves him, which is great. I think it's a great entrance. I just feel like we've seen him fail so many times. Again, he beat his brother in a lackluster match, not even a match at WrestleMania. But other than that, and again, if you didn't beat Roman Reigns, fine. But I don't. I'm tired of seeing him in the main event, Jey Uso. I need to cool down on him a little bit because to me, he's not. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything for me because we all know he's going to die next week against Gunther. The ring general is going to rule again. So now, what he promised he's going to win the King of the Ring. He's going to lose next week. So how do I take him seriously?
Okay, I can see why you say that because yeah, like he's main event Jey Uso, but he has yet to win a world title.
You know what it is? It's kind of like I always joke that Cody Rhodes is like Cody Hogan now, and I say that main event Jey Uso is like Savage. The only difference is Savage may be colorful, but at least you knew he was serious. And during the match, I always feel he just feels goofy. He just feels like he's not serious about anything. That's just me, though. I may be wrong, but if I'm wrong, put in the comments below how wrong I am. But I don't know. That's just how I feel.
People are gonna start calling you by your God-given name, Joshua, if you're wrong.
Exactly. Grumpy man. That's what they call me. It's fine. Grumpy dad.
All right. We get a Braun Strowman segment where he's talking to the Creed brothers, and then JD basically approaches him and warns him to stay out of Judgment Day business. So I feel like this, there might be setting up that feud right there.
I can't. Every time I see Braun Strowman, I'm like, oh, look, it's Garth Strowman. That's what it makes me think of. Garth Brooks, Garth Strowman, because of that stupid hat. But if they're going to set it up, fine. It was very random, though. It was like, so Braun Strowman's on Raw, but just kind of chilling backstage. He's not doing nothing. Maybe he's injured, but it's just a weird use of him, especially with all the QR code stuff going around with Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, all that. So, again, but I still wonder if him complimenting the Creed, saying, you guys are doing great here on Raw, I still think there's that thread of establishing that the Creeds, even though they lose tonight, are still winning and doing great, which again may make Chad Gable go after him. So there was a segment, but do I want to see Damian Priest and Braun Strowman? Maybe.
There was a segment with Damian Priest and Braun Strowman?
No, but then the whole idea of the Judgment Day, stay out of the Judgment Day's business, I wonder if it's going to lead to, because I don't want to see a JD versus Braun Strowman match. That's going to be a squash match. I wonder if it's kind of the beginning seeds of Braun Strowman going for the world title with Damian Priest.
I'll actually bring up something about Braun Strowman and Judgment Day right now.
Okay.
So we get Becky Lynch versus Dakota Kai. I wasn't a huge fan of this match just because I kind of felt like I don't think Dakota Kai is going to be Becky Lynch here, but instead of that happening, they just pretty much got a DQ'd, you know?
I said in the comment during the matches going on, I said, please just send Dakota Kai to NXT. But oh, wait, I don't want to see her on NXT either. Because I just don't buy it. I don't buy her as a leader. I understand if they have to have the girls have an English non-subtitler, fine. But I just feel like, to me, I've never felt she's a threat in any iteration, even as Damage Control. I always thought she was like I'll just say this. If you watch Texas Wrestling, you may not have way back in the day, but there was a group called the Freebirds, legendary team. You had Buddy Roberts, you had Michael Hayes, you had as well as Terry Gordy. There was always the person, Buddy Roberts, that was a good wrestler, but he always was the guy that would take the fall, the fodder, right? And I always felt like Dakota Kai has been the fodder. She's always been the one to be fed to the baby faces. And her versus Becky Lynch, I've never felt anything from her. And yes, I do have a little bit of bias because I want them to be the triad and just get rid of her, but I don't know. She just does nothing for me. I don't know. I'm not feeling this version of Damage Control. Let's just put it that way. And Becky's not going to lose. Are you kidding? Becky reigns? No, that's not going to happen. Not right now.
You're showing your age by mentioning the fabulous Freebirds.
I know. But it makes sense because, again, that's how I feel that she is. She kind of just is there to take the fall when nobody else is going to take it because she can't hurt the other ones.
Did it make your back hurt a little bit?
My back always hurts. Are you kidding? Always. I mean, I literally just thought about it. Wait, I've been watching wrestling since like 1994, 93. So, I mean, it's been almost 30 years. So, yeah, my back always hurts. And since going blind, I'm like, is it really a midlife crisis? No, it's really not. But no, I mean, I just feel like that, with this group has potential, but I think that Dakota Kai taking a loss here, I hope it's the beginning of them recognizing she's not going to be a good part of the group anymore.
So you think she'll get the boot just like Bayley?
Please, if there are wrestling gods out there, please get rid of her so that we can have Ram Jam himself even agreed, saying that he wants the trio and Dakota Kai can go. Bye-bye, Kai. That's how I call it. # bye-bye, Kai.
There are wrestling gods, Moose and JBL.
True. Well, look, if JBL, from my lips to JBL's ears, let's just get rid of this.
All right. So next we get an Ilja Dragunov interview. And, he's talking about how he wants to, become czar of the ring. And like we talked about earlier, they teased Gunther because Gunther kind of like shows up and he just smiles. So like I said, this is probably the beginning of the seeds for their feud on the main roster.
I always have said a smiling Gunther is a wholesome Gunther. It is just a wholesome moment just seeing him smirk and just walk up. It's like the dad that's just like, I don't know why, but seeing Gunther just smirk every time he fights somebody is just the best because I don't know. As I said before in a review, the man has a presence. He don't got to say a word. Literally just looks and just walks off. I mean, it was great. But I like that there's the tease there. And that it's really been a night of that. It's really been a night of somebody talking crap and they're like, oh, they're behind me. Look at Liv and Becky. So I'm really liking this sort of people are watching what's going on type of deal.
Yeah, I'm liking it too. So we get the Fatal 4-Way #1 contenders match. It's Judgment Day in the form of JD McDonagh and Finn Balor versus the Creed Brothers versus New Catch Republic versus AOP. Now, this match was good. It had some cool spots like Brodus taking everybody out with the Brodus ball on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to mention earlier was, Carlito gets involved in this match and Judgment Day is victorious. So now Judgment Day are going to take on Awesome Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I said earlier about the last hurrah, is Judgment Day going to win back the tag titles? Technically, they are owed a rematch.
I wouldn't be upset if they did, especially if Carlito's going to try to ingratiate himself to them. He's going to have them win the tag titles. I wouldn't be upset by that.
But like I mentioned earlier, JD McDonagh warned Braun Strowman to stay out of their business. So I was thinking, what if Braun Strowman cost Finn Balor and JD McDonagh the tag titles here?
That could be a possibility. Braun Strowman being thrown in versus the Judgment Day is such a weird mismatch.
It
I don't know
kinda
why
is.
that is, but it is.
Now, I question if Judgment Day wins back the tag titles, we're going to get a scenario where, once again, Judgment Day, except for the women's title and the IC title, Judgment Day are holding all the gold again.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see them, if that happens, I don't see them holding all the gold for a long time like they did last time.
Mm-mm. I mean, maybe Carlito wins the IC title.
Yeah, we'll see how far this whole alliance with Carlito goes. Because remember, Damien Priest told Carlito he doesn't trust him.
Yeah, well, and I think Ramjan himself said it that, you know, Carlito's main finisher is the backstabber, so it makes sense. But this match was good. I mean, I would call it the greatest hits match. Definitely everybody got their spots in. Although there was one thing that I think they made a big, huge mistake on tonight, a huge mistake. Two things. Why was R-Truth not on commentary during this match? And two, I was thinking about Julius and Brutus, you know. I'm like, he could have called Julius Caesar and, you know, just done his crazy R-Truth, like on to Brutus. You know, they could have played a whole entire crazy R-Truth commentary. So I missed him on commentary tonight.
Yeah, that was a big mistake not having R-Truth on commentary. But I did like the spot when Julius does a double suplex to Judgment Day. They're like, even Awesome Truth is impressed.
Yeah. I mean, it was the greatest hits match. It was great, though. It was a good match for what it was. I mean, it was kind of telegraphed earlier in the night, but the right team won.
I wanted the Crew Brothers to win, but that's just me.
I think if the Awesome Truth retains, then I think that's when we're going to get the Creeds turning heel and the Chad Gable march to the IC and the tag team titles, because then we could really see a great, great thing there. That's what I hope.
I do think the Creed Brothers should win the tag titles.
Yeah.
And their time will come.
Yeah. And there's so much time between now and next year's WrestleMania that, you know, it's going to change so much. But I like that we're getting the beginnings of this. And again, Triple H loves that long-term storytelling, so it may not be till SummerSlam we get something. But I'm going to enjoy the show and the ride until then.
Real quick before we move on to the next scene, I think it's so interesting, and I think I mentioned this briefly a while back. I think it's so interesting that the Creed brothers are Julius and Brutus, because you brought up how, like, R-Truth could have called Julius Caesar. Mm-hmm. Wasn't one of the people who stabbed Julius Caesar Brutus?
Onto Brute, yeah. Brutus.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking, it's so funny that you said that, because when I thought about that during the match, I thought, I wonder if one of the Creed brothers was to turn, I would think it would be, you would think Brutus, but I would think it'd be Julius because he's taller and he's considered really more, if you think about the showcases, right, between their matches, Julius, I should say, is usually the one that gets a lot more high spots, gets a lot more of this. Brutus has his Brutus ball, that's great. But Julius always gets the double suplexes. So I'm curious to see if they're going to have the Creed brothers eventually break up. And that'd probably a better match than the Usos. But yeah, that was a missed opportunity of, you know, R-Truth could have been like, well, Brutus is going to turn on Julius. Why do you think that, Truth? Well, Julius Caesar, Brutus, you know, history. And they missed out on that. Even if it wasn't going to really happen, it's a crazy R-Truth conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Like when he thought they were going to they were going to be drafted as part of the NFL draft.
Oh, God. If they had him show up like at the Lakers and made a deal with, like, you know, Kobe, let's or whoever, you know, I don't know basketball very well, but whoever.
Oh, Chris brings up a good point. R-Truth
would call
Brutus the barber, like Brutus.
That would have been perfect. You know, where's his scissors at? Where's his scissors? I need a haircut. Oh my gosh.
That would have been perfect. Missed opportunity. I agree.
Golly.
So we get a quick backstage segment with Ilja Dragunov and Ricochet. Basically, Ricochet saying that the next time they run into each other, things are going to be different. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing that match again.
You know, unless I'm misremembering, Ricochet was pretty well dressed tonight. He didn't have like his regular t-shirt. And I said this earlier. I wonder if we're starting to get a heel turn, because what I would love to see, he's the speed. Well, maybe that, but the fact that he's a speed champion, right? He's a champion. He's the fastest one. Could beat anybody under 3 minutes. And again, I'm going to show my age again. 20 years ago, there was a gimmick with Billy Kidman where he actually injured somebody with a shooting star press, and they made it into a storyline to where every time he'd hit it, he'd accidentally hurt somebody. Ricochet's fast as hell. He has amazing moves, amazing thing. So what if we tell a story of him injuring somebody accidentally, He's the speed champion, and he's the fastest thing in WWE. He's the champion. I would not mind a heel Ricochet, because then you have it to where he's a different character. He's a champion. Again, fastest in the whole entire universe. And he was pissed that he lost to Ilja in that King of the Ring, because he's always lost. Think about it. When has Ricochet had a big win? Recently.
A big win? Well, he beat Judgment Day.
Okay, well, fair enough. But I really think the way he was dressed, I still think it was out of character. Because usually he's got a t-shirt and just kind of chilling. But why was he dressed so nice?
Good point. Good point.
Ric Flair-esque, kind of like, I'm the champion. I'm the speed champion. I'm just saying it. Nothing's on accident. Nothing happens on accident in WWE anymore.
All right. So next we get the second Judgment Day segment of the night. And basically it's just Finn Balor thanking Carlito for helping them. But Damian Priest tells him that was cool. But he also brings up the fact that Carlito is going to handle his own business and tells him not to let him down, amigo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, there's another part you're forgetting at the beginning, before Finn Balor and before JD and Carlito come in. He says, "Are you and Dom? Are you and Rhea okay? Are y'all good?" So setting the seeds again.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Dom's about to answer, oh, here comes JD and Finn teasing us. Little strings here or there, little pull.
Judgment Day is falling apart.
It is. It is. Without Mommy, Mommy always keeps the house in order. So if she's gone, the boys will play and end up destroying the household if they're not careful.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop there because we already talked about the main event. We covered everything. So on a scale from a 1 to a Sean Spears perfect 10, what would you rank tonight's show?
7.5. It was well enough. Again, the Gunther match was good. I didn't expect anything less. The main event was pretty good. Shocking win for Jey Uso, but 7.5. It wasn't bad. Definitely it seemed like it flew by quickly, and that sometimes is a good thing.
I'm also gonna get a 7.5 out of 10. I really did enjoy tonight's Monday Night Raw. I didn't think it was a terrible show. The only thing I was not a huge fan of was Becky Lynch versus Dakota Kai.
It's because of Dakota. Let's just say it. Just get rid of it.
I just was not a huge fan of that match. I feel like it could have been a lot better.
I'd rather took Kyrie in there instead.
I don't know if it's because of the finish. I just wasn't a huge fan of that.
Well, I think sometimes, and look, we watch wrestling so much, we kind of know how it's going to happen, but you didn't get a clean win for either of them. So it's like, now it's a DQ, and now here comes Lyra, and now here comes Liv. It was you know what though? If we could really compare it to everything else tonight with Kofi and Gunther and the main event and Shayna and Io, really, it's one of those matches are going to suffer. And Otis and Sami was all right. I was surprised Sami really didn't have much to say on Monday Night Raw. Usually he has segments backstage, and there really was nothing with him. So I think in comparison, I think it suffers by comparison to other matches that were good tonight. I think that's why we didn't like Becky versus Dakota.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of definitely one of the weakest, not the weakest, but it's definitely kind of not as strong as the others.
It dragged on, and it shouldn't have dragged on as long as it did.
All right. So as we get ready to sign off, where can people find you?
You can find me again on A Plus Hero Report at the WrestleManiacs Podcast. Also on Twitter at WrestleM Podcast. I review Monday Night Raw, NXT, as well as SmackDown. And for Memorial Day weekend, just for the hell of it, no, actually not for fun, I'm actually going to be doing the WWE King and Queen of the Ring, as well as AEW Double or Nothing. Look, they impressed me on Dynasty. Hopefully they'll impress me on Double or Nothing, and you never know. I might end up reviewing one of the shows on Dynamite or Collision. No promises, but they might convince me.
I was really planning on going to Double or Nothing this year, but so much stuff happened that I'm not going to go to Double or Nothing. I might just be watching Double or Nothing on Central Time over here.
Hey, again, that's half the fun is with AEW. It's always something different. I kind of like, in a way, going into it blind because I want to see how good they are at telling the story of the matches. So in a way, it's kind of fun for me not to know anything. I read it, but to actually know nothing going in is so much fun because I want to see how good they are at convincing me this is going to be a good match and why they're fighting.
All right. As for myself, you can follow me on Twitter at @Datila_. I talk all things wrestling. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, occasional Saturdays and Sundays. For all things TNA, you can catch me on Body Slam Live every Thursday alongside my co-host Burt Macklin. But with that being said, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And I will see you guys Wednesday after AEW Dynamite. Bye.
See you later.